The 44th annual meeting of the Islamic Development Bank is currently underway with a focus on science, technology and innovation, as well as the role of public-private partnerships. To unpack the challenges, we spoke to Morocco with Dr. Bandar Hajjar, the president of the Islamic Development Bank Group.
The road to sustainable development goals in a fast-changing world, this is the theme of this year's annual meetings. These are changing, rapid and multiple changes, gives rise to four key scenes. The first one is the unprecedented development in science, technology, and innovation that give rise to the fourth industrial revolutions, Industry 4.0.
Sure.
The second scene is the huge gap in investment and finance that are needed to finance the sustainable development goals. Now we are moving from billion to trillions.
Sure.
The third scene is the demographic leaps in our member countries. And the fourth scene is the increasing rate of armed conflict, fragility, environment issues. These scenes, they are forming a new world. This world, a few years ago, we were talking about it as we used to characterize it as the world of science fiction, the world of art, of science fiction. Now, with the new disruptive technology, such as blockchain, fintech, 3Ds, artificial intelligence, robotics, 3Ds, and all this disruptive technology, that fictions became realities.
Absolutely.
So, well, all these affecting our world. So the question is how we remain relevant. The question is how the Islamic Development Bank respond to these changes. The question also how our member countries, the 57 countries, respond to this fast change. This is, in fact, our theme and our focus in this few days here in this year annual meetings in Morocco.
Absolutely. And I would imagine you are going to need friends, you're going to need partners, and I see one of the partners that you are looking for is the private sector. What role do you see the private sector playing?
Okay, when we talk about the private sector here, we have to relate this subject to the huge financing and investment gaps required to implement and achieve the SDG. Now, we are talking about trillions. Our member countries, the 57 countries, need annually, every year, $1 trillion to finance the SDGs. Now, when we look at the Islamic Development Bank, the total approval of this of our institution is $5 billion. And when we talk about a group as a whole, we're talking about $12 billion. And if we take also all the MDBs, multilateral development banks, the total approval is about $170 billion a year. So when you compare all this with the trillions, this gap, it is a drop in the ocean. So how we are going to close this gap? Here it comes the role of the private sector to participate. But the problem, if we want the private sector to participate and contribute in closing this gap, what is the role of our institution? Our role here is to mitigate and reduce the risk in order to attract the private sectors to come and invest in our member countries. So this is what we are really doing with our member countries, how to convince our member countries to reduce the risk that facing the potential investors in order to ensure the flow of investment towards these countries. This, of course, needs to improve the enabling environment in these countries, including the regulations, including the incentives and many things. And the Islamic Development Bank, in fact, assisting and supporting our member countries in this. So now, because of this, we are moving to the new development models or to new business model. The new business model is based basically on how to strengthen the comparative advantage and competitiveness of our member countries using the value chain approach, science, technology, and innovation, partnership, innovative Islamic finance. All these things will increase the competitiveness of our member countries and link our member countries to the global value chain. This way, we will ensure that we will have a bankable project that achieve the commercial and profit, and at the same time, the social impact. And also, in addition to that, these projects will add value and create jobs.
Sure. And from the conversations that you have had with perhaps the private sector that you have been able to get to at the projects that you have worked on so far, what are you finding in terms of what they want in order to be able to come in?
The problems here, always we talk about finance and the lack of finance. In fact, the money is there. There is no problem with the money. The capital market, they have $218 trillion. They are waiting for investment. We have a sovereign investment funds, and the private sector has no problems with make all this investment available. What they really need is to reduce the risk and to ensure that they have enabling environment for investment so they can invest and they can, this is what they really. So the private sector now the ball in the yard of the government and the country is not in the private sector.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So it sounds like it is your members that need to take the other side of the action that's required to make this happen. You tell me now, what are your members saying, and are they willing and able to put up the regulations, the environment that's required in order to be attract these $200 trillion that you talk about?
In fact, yes. All of our member countries, they are eager to overcome all the obstacles in order for the private sectors to invest in their countries. And in fact, I meet with many head of states, and we talk freely about this thing, and all of them, they are committed to do so, include also the ministers of finance, the governors, and everyone. So now we are taking, for example, as a pilot, 4 countries to implement this value chain approach. These countries are Gabon, Turkey, Morocco, and Maldives. We started, in fact, with Gabon. We sent their technical teams, where they sit with the private sectors, with the government officials, and now we are, we started designing a value chain we identified 2 strategic industries or sectors. These are magnesium and wood, and we had we carried out a feasibility study, and now we are in the process to identify who are going to be the potential investors and partners for us. We hope that if we start to implement this will create a lot of jobs and also will transform the economy from exporting raw materials to exporting final or semi-final product.
Absolutely, adding value, which is what we've been calling for across the continent all these years. Finally, Mr. President, do you get the sense that perhaps given these huge financing gaps we're seeing in the global financial markets in terms of funding these SDGs, is there a unique opportunity here for Islamic finance to play a key role in filling in part of that gap?
Yeah, the opportunity is there, but I really advise all the Islamic banks is to get the advantage from this disruptive technology, and they should really to use it as soon as possible, because the competition here we are talking about innovation, about using this, how to integrate this technology in the project cycle. This is the thing. Now innovation is the key driver of the development and job creation. Now if we see some countries in the world, they don't have financial resources, they don't have natural resources, but they focus on innovation, and now we will see them. The economy is fast growing and the unemployment rate is down. The same is true when we talk about corporation. Many companies now, they don't have tangible asset, but they have applications, and now they are making billions of dollars, and they are contributing in creating jobs for millions of people and improving the life of the people. So we are here. This is why we are focusing on science and technology and innovation, and we are trying to help our member countries to build an STI ecosystem in order to be able to encourage the people to be innovators. We are now talking about the entrepreneurs who are now leading the development in the industrial countries. So if we don't do our really work to create this segment of those entrepreneurs, and we don't focus on innovation, and we remain doing our business as usual, we will have the problem is we will all this problem will increase, unemployment will increase, insecurity, fragility, and all these things. So if we don't really take a paradigm shift in a business model and development model and shift our way of thinking and also the way we conduct our business, these problems will increase. The migrant will increase, unemployment will increase. So the question is, if we don't move to the new business model, what are the consequences? This is it.